The snow of Redemption Creek ran red that December morning in 1876. Not from winter berries, but from Clara Dawson's blood. They struck her in the churchyard, righteousness and cruelty wrapped in the same fist. One man, a crowd of silent watchers, no mercy. The frost bit deeper than their words ever could, until the soft crunch of boots on fresh snow changed everything. Until a stranger with winter sky eyes knelt beside her and spoke words that would alter two broken souls forever. "Ma'am, you'll stand with me." This is their story. Stay with me until the end, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. Let's see how far this tale can travel through the snow. The morning started with music the way most of Clara's mornings did. Her fingers moved across the saloon's battered piano keys, coaxing something beautiful from wood and wire that had seen better days. Chopin. Nocturne in E-flat major. Not the kind of music anyone expected in a frontier saloon, but then again, Clara Dawson wasn't what anyone expected either. "Play something cheerful, Clara," old Pete called from behind the bar. "You're making the whiskey taste sad." She didn't stop playing, didn't look up, just let her hands find the melody they needed, the one that matched the ache in her chest she'd been carrying since Philadelphia, since Edmund died, since her whole life collapsed like a house of cards in a strong wind. "The whiskey tastes sad because it is sad, Pete. I'm just being honest about it." "Honesty don't pay the bills, girl." Clara's hands stilled on the keys. She turned slowly, meeting Pete's rheumy eyes. "No, but it lets me sleep at night." The saloon door banged open. Cold December air rushed in, bringing with it the smell of snow and horse and expensive tobacco. Clara didn't need to turn around to know who'd arrived. The sudden silence told her everything. Silas Maddox. "Miss Dawson." His voice was smooth as aged whiskey, cultured and controlled. Everything about Silas Maddox was controlled. "Might I have a word?" Clara stood smoothing her dark green dress, the nicest thing she owned, though the hem was frayed and the elbows worn thin. She'd been beautiful once back east. Now she was just tired. "Mr. Maddox, I'm working." "I can see that." He moved closer, his boots clicking on the wooden floor. Expensive boots, hand-tooled leather, the kind that cost more than Clara made in 3 months. "That's actually what I wanted to discuss. My employment is between me and Pete." "Pete." Silas didn't even look at the old bartender. "Give us the room." Clara watched Pete's face, saw him war with himself for exactly 3 seconds before he disappeared into the back. Coward. But then, everyone in Redemption Creek was a coward when it came to Silas Maddox. He owned half the county controlled. The sheriff sat in the front pew at church every Sunday while the preacher praised his generosity. "You shouldn't be working in a saloon, Clara. A woman of your refinement." "A woman of my circumstances, you mean?" "I'm offering you different circumstances." Silas stepped closer. Too close. Clara could smell his cologne now, something expensive that probably came from San Francisco or New York. "My house needs managing. My daughter needs education. You were a governess, weren't you?" Before. Such a small word for such a large catastrophe. "I was." "Then come work for me. Proper work. Respectable work. You'd have your own room, meals, a salary that would let you save. Eventually return east if that's what you want." Clara studied his face. Handsome, she supposed, in a harsh way. All sharp angles and cold calculation. He was maybe 45, his dark hair just starting to silver at the temples. "And what would you want in return?" Something flickered in his eyes. "Companionship. Conversation. Someone who can discuss more than cattle prices and weather." "I see. Do you—" He reached out his fingers, brushing her cheek. Clara went rigid. "You're alone here, Clara. No family, no protection. Winter's getting harder. The saloon barely makes enough to keep the stove lit. What happens when Pete can't afford to keep you on?" "I'll manage." "Will you?" His hand dropped, but he didn't step back. "Or will you end up like the other women who thought they could survive out here on pride alone?" There's a grave in the cemetery marked Unknown Woman. Found her froze to death last winter clutching a bag with $3 in it. Too proud to ask for help. Clara's throat tightened. She'd seen that grave. Had stood in front of it more than once, wondering if that was her future. I don't need your help, Mr. Maddox. Everyone needs help, Clara. That's not weakness. That's just being human. And what makes you think I need yours specifically? He smiled then. It didn't reach his eyes. Because I'm the only one offering. The saloon door opened again. This time, it was Tommy Henderson, the general store owner's son, barely 18 and eager as a puppy. Miss Clara, there's someone asking for you, out front of the church. Says it's important. Silas's jaw tightened. We're not finished here. Yes, Clara said quietly. We are. Thank you for your offer, Mr. Maddox, but I'll have to decline. She moved past him, grabbing her threadbare coat from the hook by the door. The wool was thin patches visible at the elbows, but it was all she had. Outside, the December cold hit her like a fist. The town was beautiful under snow, she'd give it that. Main Street transformed into something almost magical. The rough edges softened the mud and garbage hidden under white. Children played in the square. Smoke curled from chimneys. It looked like a Christmas card. It was all a lie. Clara walked toward the church, her boots crunching through snow that was already turning to brown slush in the street. She saw them waiting, a small crowd gathered in the churchyard. Her stomach clenched. Miss Dawson. Pastor Williams stepped forward, his round face creased with concern. Real or performed, Clara couldn't tell anymore. Thank you for coming. What's this about? There's been a complaint. A complaint. About your conduct. Clara looked past him at the crowd. She recognized most of them. Mrs. Henderson from the general store, the Blackwell sisters who ran the dress shop, Mayor Pritchard, and there at the back, standing with his arms crossed, Silas Maddox. He'd beaten her here. Of course he had. What conduct? Clara asked, though she already knew. Already felt the trap closing. You were seen, Mrs. Henderson spoke up, her voice shrill. Last Tuesday, coming out of the hotel, from Mr. Garrett's room. The merchant. He'd hired Clara to organize his inventory records, paid her $5 for 3 hours of work. It had been the middle of the afternoon, the door left open, his wife downstairs the whole time. I was working. Working. Mrs. Henderson's laugh was sharp as broken glass. We all know what kind of work women like you do. Women like me. Widows. No family. No shame. The older woman stepped closer. You think we don't know? You think we don't see playing piano in a saloon, taking money from men, putting on airs like you're better than honest folks? I am honest folks. You're a whore. The word hung in the cold air. Clara heard gasps from some of the crowd. Not of shock, of satisfaction. They'd been waiting for someone to say it, to make it official. That's not true. Isn't it? Silas stepped forward now, his face arranged in careful concern. Clara, no one here wants to hurt you, but you have to understand how this looks. A woman alone working in a saloon, going to men's rooms for legitimate work. Maybe, but can you prove it? Clara looked at the faces surrounding her. Pastor Williams wouldn't meet her eyes. The mayor studied his boots. The Blackwell sisters whispered behind their hands. Not one person stepped forward to defend her. Mr. Garrett can verify. Mr. Garrett left for Denver yesterday, Silas said smoothly. Won't be back for weeks. Of course he did. Of course. This is about the saloon, Clara said quietly. About me refusing you. This is about protecting the moral character of our community. Silas's voice carried across the churchyard. We have children here, families. We can't have women of questionable virtue. I have done nothing wrong. Then why won't anyone vouch for you? Mrs. Henderson demanded. Why doesn't anyone speak up? Clara looked at the crowd again, waiting, hoping, someone, anyone. Silence. "You need to leave," Mayor Pritchard said finally. "Redemption Creek is a decent town. We can't have—" "I'm not leaving." Clara's voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "I haven't done anything wrong, and I'm not running because you decided to—" Silas moved so fast she didn't see it coming. His hand cracked across her face, hard enough to spin her around, send her stumbling. She caught herself against a fence post, tasted blood. "You dare speak to the mayor like that?" Silas's voice was cold now, no more pretense of concern. "You dare?" Clara straightened slowly, her hand pressed to her burning cheek. She could feel it swelling already. "You hit me. I disciplined you. There's a difference. You had no right." His hand shot out again. This time he grabbed her by the throat, slammed her back against the fence. Clara's vision sparked. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. "I have every right." His face was inches from hers. "You're nothing, nobody. You have no husband, no father, no brother to speak for you. You're alone. Do you understand what that means out here? You're property, Clara. And right now, you're unclaimed property. So when I offer to take you in to make you respectable, you say yes, ma'am. You say thank you, sir. You don't refuse me in front of half the saloon." He released her. Clara collapsed to her knees in the snow, gasping. "Someone should teach her proper respect," Mrs. Henderson said. Not horrified, approving. Clara looked up at the crowd, at their faces, cold as the December wind. They weren't going to help her. Some of them wanted this. "Get up," Silas said. She didn't move, couldn't. Her legs wouldn't work. "I said get up." His boot caught her in the ribs. Not hard enough to break anything. Hard enough to send her sprawling in the snow. Clara tasted blood and ice. Her hands, scrabbled for purchase, found nothing but frozen ground. "You think you're better than us." Silas's voice was almost conversational now. "Coming here with your fancy music and your education, looking down on good, decent people." Another kick, this one to her back. Pain exploded up her spine. "You're trash, Clara. Same as any whore. Only difference is you're too proud to admit it." Clara tried to crawl, tried to move. Her hands were numb. Her face was numb. Everything was cold and distant and wrong. Maybe she needs more convincing. This was a new voice. Thomas Miller, the blacksmith's son. "My pa says prideful women need breaking like horses." "Thomas," Pastor William started, but his voice was weak, uncertain. "Your pa's a wise man," Silas said. The second kick came from behind. Clara didn't see who delivered it. Didn't matter. She curled into herself, trying to protect her vital organs, trying to just survive the next few seconds. Then the next. Then the next. More boots. More pain. Someone was crying. It took Clara a moment to realize it was her. "Stop." The word was quiet, almost gentle, but it cut through the sound of boots in snow, of her own ragged breathing, of the crowd's excited murmurs. Everything stopped. Clara forced her eyes open, saw boots. Not her attacker's boots, different ones. Worn brown leather, scuffed and patched, but solid. Real. Someone was standing over her. "I said stop." The voice was low, controlled. But Clara heard what lay beneath it, the same control a man uses when handling a gun he's about to fire. "This ain't your concern, stranger." Silas's voice had changed, wary now. "Town business." Town business. The stranger's boots shifted. Clara heard the creak of leather, a gun belt being adjusted. "That what you call beating a woman in the street? We're disciplining someone who— You're beating a woman who can't fight back while a dozen people watch. That's not discipline. That's cowardice." Silence. The kind that comes right before violence. "You want to fight someone." The stranger's voice dropped lower. "Fight me." Clara tried to lift her head, tried to see who was speaking. Her vision swam. All she could make out was a silhouette. Tall, broad-shouldered, snow falling around him like something from a dream. "I don't know you," Silas said carefully. "And you don't know our situation. This woman is on the ground, bleeding, while you stand over her." A pause. "Seems like I know enough. Mister, I'm going to give you one chance to walk away. This doesn't concern you." "You're right. It doesn't." Hope died in Clara's chest. "But I'm making it concern me, ma'am." The stranger crouched down. Clara saw his face finally. Young, maybe early 30s. Blonde hair under a worn hat. Eyes the color of winter sky. "Can you stand?" She shook her head. Couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. "Okay. That's okay." His voice was gentle now, kind. "I'm going to pick you up. It's going to hurt. I'm sorry about that. But I need to get you somewhere safe. Can you trust me?" Trust. Such a strange word. Clara hadn't trusted anyone in so long she'd forgotten what it felt like. But looking into those winter sky eyes, she found herself nodding. "Hold on to me." His arms slid under her knees behind her shoulders, lifted. Clara couldn't stop the cry that escaped her lips. Everything hurt. Her ribs, her back, her face. Everything. "I know. I'm sorry." He held her against his chest like she weighed nothing, like she was something precious. "Just breathe. We're going to get through this." "Put her down." Silas's voice was hard now. "I'm not asking." The stranger turned slowly. Clara felt the movement. Careful. Controlled. "And I'm not listening. This woman needs a doctor. I'm taking her to one. You want to stop me, you're welcome to try. There's 10 of us and 1 of you. I've had worse odds." Clara felt his chest move against her cheek. A deep breath, steady, preparing. "Anyone who wants to try stopping me, step forward now." No one moved. "That's what I thought." The stranger started walking. Each step was careful, measured, trying not to jostle her too much. "Doc in this town. North end of Main Street," someone called out. Clara didn't recognize the voice. "Blue door." "Much obliged." They moved through the snow. Clara's vision kept swimming in and out. She caught glimpses the shocked faces of townspeople, the church steeple against gray sky. Silas Maddox's face twisted with rage. "You don't know what you're doing," Silas called after them. "She's nothing, nobody. You're making a mistake protecting her." The stranger didn't stop, didn't even slow down, but Clara felt him take another breath. When he spoke, his voice carried across the churchyard. "The only mistake I see is a town that forgot what decency looks like." Clara closed her eyes. The stranger's heartbeat was steady beneath her ear. Strong. Real. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt safe. "Stay with me," he murmured. "Just for her. You're going to be okay. I promise." "You don't know me." "Don't have to. You needed help. I was there. That's enough. They'll come after you." "Let them." "Why?" The word came out broken, desperate. "Why help me?" The stranger was quiet for a moment. His boots crunched through snow. Clara felt snowflakes landing on her face, cold and clean. "Once," he said quietly, "I didn't stop. Saw someone who needed help, and I kept riding. Told myself it wasn't my business. Told myself someone else would help." His arms tightened around her slightly. "Nobody did, and she died. So now I stop. Every time. No matter what." Clara's throat closed. She couldn't speak, could barely breathe, but she managed to turn her face into his coat just slightly, just enough to say thank you without words. The blue door appeared ahead. The stranger kicked it open. "Doc needs you now." A woman appeared. Older, maybe 50, with gray hair pulled back severe and sharp eyes that took in the situation instantly. "What happened?" "Beaten," In the churchyard. Don't know how bad. The woman, the doctor, Clara realized with distant surprise, moved quickly. Exam room. Now. Put her on the table. The stranger carried Clara through a doorway into a small, clean room. Laid her on something soft. His hands lingered for just a moment. "You're safe now," he said. "I promise." Who did this? The doctor was already examining Clara's face, her ribs, her back. Professional. Efficient. Crowd in the churchyard. Led by Silas Maddox. The doctor's hands paused. Silas. You know him. Everyone knows Silas. The doctor's voice was carefully neutral. You're new in town. Passing through. Might want to keep passing. Silas doesn't forget. Neither do I. The doctor looked up at him then, studied his face. What's your name, stranger? Nathan Holloway. Most folks call me Nate. I'm Doc Emma Pritchard. This is going to take a while, Mr. Holloway. She's hurt bad ribs, maybe internal bleeding. Definitely concussion. You can wait outside. I'll stay. This is a medical examination. She needs privacy. I'll turn around, but I'm not leaving her alone. Not until I know she's safe. Doc Emma's mouth twitched. Might have been a smile. Suit yourself. Turn around. Don't look. And if you faint, I'm not catching you. Yes, ma'am. Clara felt him move away, heard his boots on the floor. The door didn't open. He was staying. Actually staying. All right, honey. Doc Emma's hands were gentle now. Let's see what we're dealing with. This is going to hurt. I'm sorry. It did hurt. Clara bit down on the leather strap Doc Emma gave her, tried not to scream as the examination continued. She heard the doctor's sharp intakes of breath, heard muttered curses. None of it was good. 3 broken ribs, Doc Emma said finally. Bruising over most of your torso. Face is a mess, but nothing broken there. You're lucky if they'd hit you a few inches different, you'd be dead. Lucky. Clara almost laughed. It came out as a sob. Easy now, easy. Doc Emma's hand found hers, squeezed. You're going to be okay. It'll hurt for a while, and you'll be laid up for a couple weeks, but you'll heal. Can't afford. Couple weeks. We'll figure that out. Doc Emma raised her voice. Mr. Holloway, you can turn around now. We're decent. Nate turned. His face was carefully neutral, but Clara saw his jaw clench when he looked at her, saw his hands curl into fists. Doc. She'll live. Needs rest. Lots of it. And someone to look after her. Can't be alone for at least 2 weeks. Those ribs could puncture a lung if she moves wrong. She can stay with me. Both women stared at him. Excuse me, Doc Emma said. I have a room at the boarding house. She can have it. I'll sleep in the barn, won't be the first time. She'll be safe fed, looked after. You don't even know her name, Doc Emma said slowly. Don't need to. She needs help. I'm offering it. Clara found her voice. It came out rough, broken. I can't accept charity. Nate moved closer, knelt beside the exam table so their eyes were level. It's not charity. It's common decency. You're hurt. I have resources. That's all there is to it. I don't know you. No, but you trusted me enough to let me carry you here. Maybe trust me a little further, just till you're healed. Why? Because someone should have helped you sooner. Because that crowd should have stopped what was happening instead of watching. Because... He stopped. Took a breath. Because leaving you alone would make me just like them. And I'm not like them. Clara studied his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the thing he wanted in return. Found nothing but honesty. My name is Clara Dawson. A small smile touched his lips. Pleased to meet you properly, Miss Dawson. Though I wish it was under better circumstances. Me too. Doc Emma cleared her throat. This is very noble, Mr. Holloway. But practically speaking, Miss Dawson needs help moving, dressing, bathing. You can't. I'll help. The voice came from the doorway. A younger woman stood there. Maybe 25, pretty in a sharp way with dark hair and calculating eyes. I'm Grace Maddox. The air went cold. Your father, Clara whispered. He's the one who... I know what my father did. Grace stepped into the room. Her voice was flat, carefully controlled. I was there. I watched. I didn't stop it. Then why are you here? Grace looked at Clara directly. Because I'm tired of watching. Tired of being his daughter. Tired of pretending I don't see what he does. She took a breath. I can't undo what happened. Can't make it right. But I can help you now. If you'll let me. Nate stood slowly. His hand moved to his gun. This a trick? Probably looks like one. Grace didn't flinch. I'm Silas Maddox's daughter. Everyone in this town is either scared of him or paid by him. I'm both. But I'm also sick of living like this. Sick of being part of it. Grace, Doc, Emma said quietly. If your father finds out you're helping her, let him find out. Grace's voice was stronger now. I'm 26 years old. I've watched my father destroy lives for 26 years. Maybe it's time I did something about it. Clara looked at this girl, this woman who stood in the doorway offering help, risking her father's rage. Saw something in her eyes, something broken and desperate and real. Okay, Clara whispered. Okay. Nate looked at Clara. You sure? No, but I don't have a lot of options. You have me. I have a stranger who picked me up out of the snow. That's not the same as having someone. Nate's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fair enough, but I meant what I said. Room's yours, food's yours, safety's yours, long as you need it. Why? Already told you. Tell me again. He was quiet for a moment, then, because everyone deserves someone who stops. Everyone deserves someone who says no more. You needed that today, so I stopped, that's all. It wasn't all. Clara could see that in his eyes. There was more story there. More pain, more reasons. But for now, this was enough. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank me yet. We've got a town full of people who think what happened to you was justified. We've got Silas Maddox angry that someone interfered. And we've got winter setting in hard. Nate's expression was grim. This isn't over, Miss Dawson. It's just beginning. Clara. What? Call me Clara. If we're going to weather this together, might as well use first names. Something softened in his face. All right, Clara. And I'm Nate. Nate. She tested the name, liked how it felt, solid, real. What happens now? Now we get you somewhere safe, get you healed, and we figure out what comes next. And if Silas comes after me again, Nate's hand rested on his gun. Then he goes through me first. Doc Emma cleared her throat. This is all very heroic, but she needs rest, now. Grace helped me get her settled in the back room. Mr. Holloway, Nate, go check on that boarding house room. Make sure it's suitable. And for God's sake, both of you be careful. Silas has eyes everywhere. Yes, ma'am. Nate touched his hat brim. A gesture so old-fashioned, so courteous that Clara felt something in her chest crack open. Just slightly, just enough to let in the smallest sliver of hope. He moved to the door, stopped, looked back at Clara. I meant it, he said quietly. You'll stand with me. From now on, you don't fall alone anymore. Then he was gone, boots crunching in snow, leaving Clara with Doc Emma and Grace Maddox, and the distant sound of the town going about its business, like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Clara felt it in her broken ribs, and her bruised face, and the strange warmth in her chest where hope was trying to take root. She'd fallen. Hard. Completely. But for the first time in 3 years, since Edmund died, since Philadelphia, Since everything collapsed, someone had been there to catch her. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start with. The boarding house room smelled of pine soap and old wood smoke. Clara lay on the narrow bed, every breath a reminder of broken ribs, and listened to the sound of boots on floorboards below. Nate was down there somewhere talking to Mrs. Chen, who ran the place, making arrangements Clara didn't have the strength to argue about. Grace sat in the room's only chair, hands folded in her lap, staring at nothing. "You should go," Clara said. Her voice came out rough, scraped raw. "Before someone sees you here, let them see. Your father—" "My father thinks I'm visiting the dressmaker." Grace's laugh was bitter. "He always thinks I'm visiting the dressmaker. Doesn't occur to him I might be doing something that actually matters." Clara shifted slightly, trying to find a position that didn't make her ribs scream. Failed. "Why are you really here?" Grace was quiet for a long moment. Outside, snow fell past the window in thick flakes. The world was going white and silent. "My mother," Grace said finally. "Before she died. There was a woman in town, Sarah Mitchell. She'd refused my father's business offer. He wanted her land. She said no." Clara waited. "One day Sarah fell down the stairs at the general store, broke her neck. Everyone said it was an accident." Grace's hands tightened in her lap. "But my mother was there. She saw. It wasn't an accident. Your mother told you this. On her deathbed. Made me promise I'd never let it happen again. Never stand by and watch while he—" Grace's voice broke. "I've broken that promise every day for 8 years, until today." The door opened. Nate came in carrying a tray with soup, bread, and tea. He set it on the small table by the window. "Mrs. Chen says the room's yours as long as you need it. No charge. I can't accept—" "She insists. Says Silas Maddox has been running this town like a tyrant for too long. Her words, not mine." Nate pulled off his coat, hung it on a peg. "She also says half the town's talking about what happened. Other half's pretending it didn't. Which half is bigger? Depends on who you ask." Grace stood abruptly. "I should go. Father will expect me home for dinner." "Grace." Clara's voice stopped her at the door. "Thank you." The younger woman's shoulders stiffened. "Don't thank me yet. I haven't earned it." She left, pulling the door closed, with a soft click. Clara and Nate were alone. He moved to the window, looking out at the snow-covered street. His profile was sharp against the gray light, strong jaw, straight nose lines around his eyes that spoke of squinting into sun and wind. "You should eat," he said without turning. "Not hungry." "Didn't ask if you were hungry. Asked you to eat." Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. "Bossy." "Practical." He turned, met her eyes. "You've got healing to do. Can't heal on an empty stomach." "Fine, but you have to tell me something first." "What?" "Who you are, really. Not just a name and a noble gesture. Who is Nathan Holloway?" He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he pulled the chair Grace had vacated closer to the bed and sat, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "Cavalry scout, during the war. Union side, which doesn't make me popular in some parts of Texas. The war ended 11 years ago. Some wars don't end just because the fighting stops." Clara understood that. Understood it bone deep. "What happened?" "Lost my whole platoon. Ambush in Arkansas, winter of '64. I was supposed to be on point, supposed to scout ahead, make sure the trail was clear." His jaw worked. "But I was tired, cold. Figured another scout could take the shift, so I stayed back with the main group." The room was very quiet. Even the street sounds seemed muffled by snow. "Bushwhackers hit the forward scouts first. Killed them all before they could get a warning back. Then they hit us. We were boxed in. Nowhere to run." Nate's hands tightened. 32 men. Only 3 of us made it out. And I made it because I'd been too tired to do my job. That's not your fault. Isn't it? I was the scout. My job was to scout. I didn't. They died. Clara understood now. Understood why he'd stopped in the churchyard. Why he couldn't walk away. So you've been stopping ever since. Trying to. He looked up, met her eyes. Doesn't bring them back. Doesn't fix what I failed to do. But maybe if I help enough people, maybe if I stop enough bad things from happening, maybe someday the scales will balance. That's not how it works. No, no. You can't earn your way out of guilt. Can't save enough people to make up for the ones you couldn't save. Clara's throat tightened. Believe me, I've tried. Your husband. It wasn't a question. Clara nodded anyway. Edmund. He was sick for 6 months before he died. Typhoid. The doctors in Philadelphia said there was nothing they could do, but I didn't believe them. Spent every penny we had on treatments, medicines, specialists. She stared at her hands. I thought if I just tried hard enough, worked hard enough, loved him enough, he'd get better. But he didn't. He died in July, hot as hell. The room smelled like death and sweat and medicine that didn't work. And the last thing he said to me was, "Stop trying so hard, Clara. Just let me go." Nate didn't offer empty comfort. Didn't say it wasn't her fault or she'd done her best. Just sat there solid and present and let her feel it. After he died, I found out about the debts. He'd borrowed money I didn't know about, trying to keep me from worrying. We lost everything. The house, the furniture, even my piano. Clara's laugh was hollow. I became exactly what Mrs. Henderson called me today. A woman alone. No family, no protection, nothing. You had yourself. Myself wasn't enough. It was enough to survive, to get from Philadelphia to here, to keep going even when everything said stop. Nate leaned forward slightly. That takes strength most people don't have. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. This time Clara did smile. Small, painful, but real. You should eat too, if we're both supposed to be healing. I'm not hurt. You're carrying 32 dead men on your back. That's a wound, even if nobody can see it. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition. You're smarter than you let on. I'm exactly as smart as I let on. People just don't pay attention. He stood, moved to the tray, broke the bread in half, brought one piece to her, kept the other. They ate in silence, listening to the snow against the window and the distant sounds of the town settling in for night. When Clara's eyes started to drift closed, Nate took the empty bowl from her hands. Sleep. I'll be right outside the door. You don't have to. I know. I'm doing it anyway. Nate. He paused at the door. Thank you. For stopping. For staying. For... Her voice caught. For making me feel human again. He looked back at her, and his eyes were impossibly sad. You don't need to thank me for treating you like what you are. And what's that? Someone worth saving. He left before she could respond, pulling the door closed with careful quiet. Clara lay in the darkness, feeling her ribs ache and her face throb and something in her chest that might have been hope, or might have been fear, or might have been both. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering everything, making the world new. The next morning brought Marshal Ben Torres. Clara woke to voices in the hallway. Nate's low and controlled, another man's sharp with authority. She tried to sit up, gasped at the pain, managed to prop herself on one elbow when the door opened. The man who entered wore a marshal's badge and a face that had seen too much. Dark hair, dark eyes, maybe 40. Mexican heritage clear in his features. He removed his hat when he saw her. Miss Dawson, I'm Marshal Torres. I need to ask you some questions about yesterday. Nate stood in the doorway, tense as a drawn bow. She needs rest. She needs justice. Those aren't always the same thing. Torres pulled the chair closer, sat without asking permission. Tell me what happened. Clara told him. All of it. The false accusations, the crowd in the churchyard, Silas Maddox's hands on her throat. She didn't look at Nate while she spoke. Couldn't bear to see his face. When she finished, Torres was quiet for a long moment. You understand what you're saying? You're accusing Silas Maddox, one of the most powerful men in the county, of assault. In front of witnesses. It's not an accusation if it's true. Truth and proof are different animals, Miss Dawson. Torres leaned back, studied her. Witnesses say they saw an altercation. They say things got heated, but they don't remember who struck first. Don't remember the details. They're lying. I know, but I can't prove it. And without proof, I can't arrest Silas Maddox for disciplining someone who was causing a public disturbance. Disciplining. Clara tasted bile. That's what we're calling attempted murder now. That's what the law calls it when I can't prove otherwise. Nate pushed off the doorframe. Then the law's broken. The law's what we've got. Torres stood, met Nate's eyes. And it's better than the alternative. What alternative? The one where men like you take justice into their own hands. Where everyone settles their problems with guns instead of courts. Where the fastest draw wins instead of the person who's right. The marshal moved to the door, paused. I know what you're thinking, Holloway. I can see it in your eyes. You're thinking about riding out to Silas Maddox's ranch and putting a bullet in him. Thought crossed my mind. Let it keep crossing. Don't act on it. Why not? If the law won't help her, what's left? Torres looked at Clara. Because she deserves better than having her name tied to a killing. Because she deserves a chance to rebuild her life without blood on it. Because sometimes the best way to help someone isn't to fight their battles for them, it's to stand with them while they fight their own. He left. The door closed. Nate stood there, jaw working, hands curled into fists. He's right, Clara said quietly. I know. You can't kill him. I know that too. But you want to. Nate turned, and the look in his eyes made Clara's breath catch. I want to do a lot of things. Want to ride out there and make him feel every bit of pain he made you feel. Want to stand in that churchyard and ask everyone who watched why they didn't stop it. Want to... He stopped, took a breath. But wanting and doing are different things. Most people don't see the difference. I'm not most people. No, he wasn't. Clara could see that now. Could see the discipline that held his rage in check, the code that kept him from becoming what he'd fought against during the war. What do we do then? We wait, we heal, we watch. Nate moved to the window, and we hope Silas makes a mistake. What if he doesn't? Then we make our own opportunities. 3 days passed. Snow piled higher. Clara's face went from purple to green to yellow. Her ribs hurt less when she breathed. Grace came every afternoon with soup-bread medicine from Doc Emma. They didn't talk much, just sat together, two women bound by silence and secrets. On the 4th day, Nate came back from town with news. There's a dance, tomorrow night, town hall, winter social. Clara looked up from the book she'd been trying to read. So Silas will be there. The whole town will be there, including everyone who watched what happened to you. I'm not going. I think you should. So they can stare, whisper. Remind me I'm nothing. So you can show them you're still standing. Nate sat on the edge of the bed. Clara, if you hide, they win. If you stay locked up in this room while they dance and drink and celebrate, they get to forget what they did. Get to pretend it never happened. I can't face them. Yes, you can. I can barely stand for 5 minutes without my ribs screaming. Then sit, play the piano, remind them who you were before they tried to break you. Clara stared at him. You want me to play piano, at a dance, where Silas Maddox will be. I want you to live your life, on your terms, not his. He'll hurt me again. Not while I'm there. You can't protect me forever. Watch me try. There was something in his voice, something fierce and final and completely unreasonable. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. Why do you care so much? Nate was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low, careful. Because when I look at you, I see every person I failed to save. Every person I was too late for, too slow, for too broken to help. And I know that saving you won't save them. Won't bring back those 32 men. Won't fix what I am." He met her eyes. "But maybe if I help you stand, maybe if I make sure you don't face this alone, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all I can do. Stand with someone when everyone else walks away." Clara's throat closed. She reached out, found his hand. Squeezed. "Okay. Okay. I'll go to the dance. I'll play the piano. I'll show them I'm still here." She held his gaze. "But Nate, if this goes wrong, if he comes after me again, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Don't kill him. Don't throw your life away trying to save mine. It's not worth it." "You're worth it. Promise me." He looked at her for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. "I promise." It was a lie. Clara knew it was a lie, but she let herself believe it anyway. Just for a moment. Just long enough to find the courage for tomorrow. The dance started at 7. By 6:30, Clara was dressed in a borrowed gown, dark blue wool graces taken in at the waist and let out in the shoulders. Her face was still marked, still showed the shadow of Silas's fist. But Doc Emma had done what she could with powder and determination. "You look beautiful," Grace said quietly. "I look like someone tried to beat me to death." "You look like someone who survived." Nate waited downstairs. He'd cleaned up too fresh shirt coat, brushed hat in his hands. When he saw Clara coming down the stairs, something crossed his face too fast to name. "Ready?" "No." "Good answer. Let's go anyway." The walk to the town hall was short, but felt endless. Clara heard the music before she saw the building fiddle and guitar, someone singing off-key. Light spilled from the windows. Shadows moved inside. Normal people doing normal things. She stopped at the door. "I can't." "Yes, you can. They'll stare. Let them." Nate offered his arm. "You're not alone this time." Clara took his arm, felt the solid strength of him, took a breath. Another. Then pushed open the door. The music stopped. Every head turned. Every conversation died. The silence was absolute. Clara felt Silas before she saw him. Felt his eyes on her like a brand. He stood near the punch bowl, surrounded by his usual crowd, the mayor, the sheriff, Mrs. Henderson, and her sharp-tongued friends. "Well," Silas said, his voice carrying across the room. "Look who decided to show her face." Nate's arm tightened under Clara's hand. She felt him coil, ready to spring. "Don't," she whispered. "Not yet." She walked forward. Each step hurt. Each breath was a battle. But she walked head high back, straight eyes forward. The piano sat in the corner, waiting. Clara sat down on the bench, positioned her hands over the keys, and played. Not Chopin this time, not something refined and Eastern. She played Shenandoah. Slow, aching, beautiful. The room stayed silent. But people weren't staring at her bruises anymore. They were listening. Clara played through the first verse, then the second. Her ribs screamed. Her fingers shook. But she played. And when she finished, when the last note died away, someone started clapping. Grace. Standing alone near the door, clapping slowly, deliberately. Then another person joined her. Preacher Pete from the saloon. Then Mrs. Chen from the boarding house. Then Doc Emma. Not everyone. Not even close. But enough. Silas's face went red. "That's enough. This isn't—" "It's beautiful," a voice interrupted. Old Mrs. Blackwell, the dressmaker. "I haven't heard that song since my wedding. Play it again, dear." Clara looked at the old woman, saw something in her eyes. Not quite apology, not quite guilt, but maybe the beginning of both. She played it again. This time people started dancing. Not everyone, but some. Moving slowly to the music, choosing in their small way to stand with her instead of against her. Silas watched fury radiating from him like heat. But he couldn't stop it, couldn't call them all out, couldn't beat everyone, Clara played for an hour. Her hands went numb. Her ribs felt like they were on fire. But she played. When she finally stopped, when she couldn't play anymore, Nate was there, helping her stand, supporting her weight. Ready to go? She nodded. Couldn't speak. Couldn't do anything but lean on him and try not to collapse. They made it to the door before Silas's voice stopped them. "This isn't over, Miss Dawson." Clara turned slowly, looked him in the eye. "No, it's not. But next time you come for me, remember this. I'm still here, still standing, still playing." She took a breath. "You wanted to break me. You failed." She walked out into the snow, Nate's arm around her waist, and didn't look back. Behind them, the music started again, slower, quieter, but still there, still playing. That night, Clara lay in her room and stared at the ceiling and felt something shift inside her. Something that had been frozen since Edmund died. Since Philadelphia. Since the world taught her she was nothing. A knock on the door. Grace's voice. "Clara, can I come in?" "Yes." Grace entered carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth. She set it on the bed, unwrapped it slowly. A gun. Small silver, perfect for a woman's hand. "My mother's Derringer. She gave it to me before she died. Said every woman needs protection in this world." Grace held it out. "I want you to have it." "Grace, I can't." "You can. You will. Because my father isn't done. He won't forgive what happened tonight. Won't forgive you for standing up, for making him look weak." Grace's eyes were hard. "Next time he comes for you, you need to be ready to fight back." Clara took the gun. It was heavier than she expected. Cold. Real. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just survive. And when this is over, when my father gets what he deserves, maybe then I can start being someone my mother would be proud of." Grace left. Clara sat holding the Derringer, feeling its weight, understanding what it meant. She was going to war, not the kind with armies and battles. The quiet kind, the dangerous kind, the kind where everything was at stake and nobody won clean. Another knock. Nate this time. "Saw Grace leave. You okay?" Clara looked up at him. This man who'd stopped in the snow, who'd carried her, who'd stood with her when everyone else walked away. "No, but I will be." He nodded. "Understood. I'll be outside if you need me." Nate. "Yeah. When this is over, when we get through whatever's coming, I want you to know something." "What's that?" "You saved those 32 men, not during the war, but after. Every person you've helped since then, every time you've stopped, every time you've chosen to stand with someone, they're alive because of you. You didn't fail them. You honored them." His eyes went bright. He blinked hard, nodded once. "Get some rest, Clara." He closed the door. Clara lay back the Derringer on the nightstand and closed her eyes. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the world, making it clean. But Clara knew the truth. Snow didn't change what was underneath, didn't make the rot disappear. Just hid it for a while. And when spring came, when the thaw arrived, everything frozen would rise again. She'd be ready. The threat came 3 days later, delivered by a boy who couldn't have been more than 12. He handed Clara the envelope while she sat in the boarding house parlor, then ran before she could ask who sent it. The paper was expensive, cream-colored, heavy. Clara's hands shook as she opened it. "Leave Redemption Creek by week's end, or what happened in the churchyard will seem like mercy. You have been warned. No signature. Didn't need one." Nate read it over her shoulder, his jaw turning to stone. "When?" "Week's end. 5 days." "You're not leaving." "Nate, you're not leaving," he repeated, and his voice was absolutely flat, the kind of flat that meant violence was barely leashed. "I won't let him chase you out of another town. Won't let him win." Clara folded the letter carefully, her ribs protesting the movement. 2 weeks since the beating, and they still ached with every breath. "This isn't about winning. This is about surviving. Same thing. No, it's not. She stood moved to the window. Snow had stopped falling, but the world stayed white. Surviving means knowing when to fight and when to run. I've run before. I'm good at it. You shouldn't have to be. But I am. She turned to face him. I'm good at disappearing. Good at starting over. Good at being nobody in new places. I can go to Denver or Santa Fe or California. Somewhere Silas Maddox's reach doesn't extend. Nate crossed the room in 3 strides, took her shoulders gently, carefully mindful of her still healing body. And then what? You run again when the next Silas shows up, and again until you've run out of places to run to, if that's what it takes. That's not living. That's just existing, moving from place to place like a ghost. His hands tightened slightly. You played piano at that dance. You looked those people in the eye. You showed them you're still here, still whole. You going to throw that away because Silas Maddox wrote you a threatening letter? He'll kill me. Not while I'm breathing. You can't watch me every second, can't protect me from everything. Clara's voice cracked. And I can't ask you to. You've done enough. More than enough. It's time I handled my own problems. By running. By surviving. They stared at each other, the air between them crackling with tension and fear, and something else Clara didn't want to name. The door burst open. Grace stumbled in her dress, torn, blood on her lip, panic in her eyes. He knows, she gasped. Father knows I've been helping you. He knows about the gun, the visits, everything. Silas Maddox walked in behind her. He didn't come alone. 2 men flanked him, ranch hands Clara recognized from the churchyard. Big men, mean-looking, armed. Nate's hand went to his gun. Silas smiled. I wouldn't. Thomas here is faster than he looks, and you're already outnumbered. 3 on 2, Nate said quietly. I've had worse odds. 3 on 1, my daughter won't be fighting. She's coming home. Silas grabbed Grace's arm, yanked her close. She cried out. As for you, Miss Dawson, I believe you received my message. Clara's hand slipped into her pocket, found the derringer. I did. Good. Then you understand the situation. You have until Sunday to leave town. If you're still here Monday morning, well, he shrugged. Accidents happen, especially to women living alone. Fires start, buildings collapse, people disappear. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Silas pushed Grace toward the door. She struggled, but he was stronger. And as for you, daughter, you and I are going to have a long conversation about loyalty, about family, about what happens to little girls who betray their fathers. Let her go, Clara said. Excuse me. Let Grace go. Your quarrel is with me, not her. Silas laughed. Actually laughed. My quarrel is with anyone who defies me. Grace chose her side. Now she pays the price. Nate moved fast. One moment he was standing still, the next his gun was drawn and pointed at Silas's head. The ranch hands drew too, but Nate was faster. Here's what's going to happen, Nate said, his voice deadly calm. You're going to let Grace go. You're going to leave this boarding house, and you're going to forget about threatening Clara or Grace or anyone else in this town. Or what you'll shoot me in front of witnesses. Silas's smile widened. That would make you a murderer, Mr. Holloway. Is that really what you want? Depends on the day. Nate, don't, Clara whispered. Listen to her, Silas said. She's smarter than you, knows when she's beaten. I'm not beaten, Clara said quietly, pulled the derringer from her pocket, small silver, deadly at close range. And neither is she. Everyone froze. Clara pointed the gun at Silas. Her hand didn't shake. Not anymore. Let Grace go. Now. You won't shoot me. Won't I? You're not a killer, Clara. You're a piano player. A widow. A woman who plays by the rules. Silas's voice was almost gentle, almost kind. You don't have it in you. Clara thought about Philadelphia. About Edmund dying while she tried everything to save him. About losing everything. About arriving in Redemption Creek with nothing but pride and piano skills. About being beaten in the snow while good people watched. "You're right," she said. "I'm not a killer." She lowered the gun slightly. Silas smiled. "But I'm a survivor, and survivors do what they have to." She fired. Not at Silas, at the floor between his feet. The sound was deafening in the small room. Splinters exploded from the floorboards. Silas jerked backward, shocked. "Next one goes higher," Clara said. "Let, Grace, go." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then slowly, deliberately, Silas released Grace's arm. "This isn't over. I know. You just made the biggest mistake of your life." "Probably. But at least it was my mistake. My choice." Clara kept the gun steady. "Now get out." Silas looked at Nate, at Clara, at Grace. His face was pale with rage. "You'll regret this. All of you." "Maybe. But we'll regret it together." Clara's voice was steel. "Now I said get out." He left. His men followed. The door slammed behind them. Silence. Then Grace started crying. Not delicate tears, harsh, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Clara lowered the gun, moved to her, pulled her close, despite the protest from her ribs. "It's okay. You're safe now." "I am not safe. None of us are safe." Grace pulled back, her face streaked with tears and blood. "He'll kill us. All of us. He won't stop until we're dead." "Then we leave," Nate said. "All three of us. Tonight." "And go where—" Grace's laugh was hysterical. "There's nowhere he won't find us. He has connections from here to California. Money, power. We can't outrun him." "So we don't run," Clara said quietly. They both stared at her. "We can't fight him," Grace said. "He's too powerful." "He's one man." One man with a dozen ranch hands, the sheriff in his pocket, half the town terrified of him, and enough money to make problems disappear. Grace shook her head. "We can't win." "Maybe not. But we can make him wish he'd left us alone." Nate's eyes narrowed. "What are you thinking?" Clara moved to the window, looked out at the snow-covered street. Redemption Creek. The town that had watched her almost die. The town that was slowly, grudgingly starting to see her as human again. "I'm thinking Silas Maddox is powerful because everyone's afraid of him. Because they think he can't be touched. That he's above consequences." "He is," Grace said bitterly. "The law won't touch him." "Then we show everyone what he really is. Not the respectable rancher. Not the church-going philanthropist. The man who beats women. Who threatens. Who kills." "How—" Clara turned to face them. "Grace, you said your mother saw what happened to Sarah Mitchell. That she knew it wasn't an accident." "Yes, but she's dead. She can't testify." "But you can. You can tell people what your mother told you. Plant the seed of doubt." "They won't believe me. I'm his daughter. They'll think I'm lying to hurt him." "Maybe. But what if there are others? Other people he's hurt. Other families he's destroyed. What if we find them, get them to show everyone that Sarah Mitchell wasn't an isolated incident?" Nate crossed his arms. "That's a lot of ifs." "You have a better idea." He was quiet for a moment. Then, Marshal Torres. He said he couldn't arrest Silas without proof. What if we get him proof? How? By making Silas come after us. Making him act in the open where witnesses can see. "That's insane," Grace said. "That's suicide." "Maybe, but it's also the only way." Nate looked at Clara. "If we run, he wins. If we hide, he wins. But if we stand our ground, force him to show his hand, we might be able to stop him." Clara thought about Edmund. About how she'd fought so hard to save him and failed. About Philadelphia and the debts and the shame of losing everything. About arriving in Redemption Creek desperate and alone. About Nate stopping in the snow. about Grace risking everything to help, about the people at the dance who'd chosen finally to see her as worth saving. "All right," she said. "We make a stand." "Clara," Grace started. "I'm done running, done hiding, done letting men like Silas Maddox decide what I'm worth." Clara picked up the derringer, held it carefully. "If he wants me gone, he's going to have to drag me out. And I'm going to make it as difficult as possible." Nate's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Now you're talking." They spent the next 3 days preparing. Doc Emma agreed to write down everything she'd seen: Clara's injuries, the extent of the beating, her professional opinion about what would have happened without treatment. It wasn't much, but it was something. Mrs. Chen from the boarding house admitted she'd seen Silas hit another woman 2 years ago. Broke the woman's arm. Everyone called it an accident, but Mrs. Chen knew better. Old Pete from the saloon confessed he'd paid Silas protection money for years. Told stories about other business owners who'd refused. 3 of them were no longer in business. 1 had disappeared entirely. Slowly, carefully, they built a case. Not enough for trial, not enough for conviction, but enough to plant doubt. Enough to make people whisper. Enough to crack Silas's carefully constructed reputation. Marshal Torres listened to everything, his face carved from stone. "This isn't evidence," he said when they finished. "This is hearsay and speculation, and people being too afraid to speak up when it mattered." "But it's the truth," Clara said. "Truth and proof are still different animals, Miss Dawson. I told you that. So you won't help us." Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "I didn't say that. What I'm saying is, if you want Silas Maddox to face justice, you need to catch him doing something I can arrest him for. Something undeniable. Something that happens in front of witnesses who can't be intimidated or bought." "Like what?" "Like assaulting someone, threatening someone with witnesses present, destroying property. Anything that proves he's not the upstanding citizen he pretends to be." Torres met Clara's eyes. "But that means putting yourself in danger. Means making yourself bait." "I'm already in danger. At least this way it's on my terms." "This could get you killed." "Living scared will kill me anyway. Just slower." Torres studied her face, then nodded once sharp. "All right, here's what we do." The plan was simple, recklessly simple. Clara would stay in town visible defiant, would play piano at the saloon every night, would walk the streets in daylight, would force Silas to either accept her presence or act against her. And when he acted, because they all knew he would, Torres would be waiting with witnesses, with evidence, with everything needed to finally bring charges that would stick. "He'll try to kill you," Grace said on the 4th night. They sat in Clara's room, the derringer on the table between them. "Not hurt you, not scare you, kill you." "I know." "And you're doing this anyway?" "Yes." "Why?" Grace's voice broke. "Why risk everything you could leave? Start over somewhere safe. Why stay in a town that watched you almost die?" Clara thought about how to answer. About Philadelphia and Edmond and the long journey west. About being beaten in the snow and hearing Nate's voice saying she'd stand with him. About the dance and the music and the small acts of courage from people who'd finally chosen to see her. "Because if I run now, I'll run forever. Every town, every job, every time someone looks at me wrong, I'll remember I ran, that I let fear win." She met Grace's eyes. "I survived Edmund dying, survived losing everything, survived being beaten in the street. I'm done just surviving. It's time to live." Grace was crying again. "I don't want you to die." "I don't plan to. Plans don't always work out." "No, but they're all we've got." The 5th day came. Sunday. The deadline Silas had given. Clara dressed carefully. The blue wool dress Grace had lent her. Her hair pinned up proper. the derringer hidden in her pocket where she could reach it fast. Nate waited downstairs. He'd barely left her side since the confrontation, slept outside her door every night, walked with her everywhere she went. Silent, watchful, ready. "You don't have to do this," he said when she came down. "Yes, I do. There's still time to leave, to find somewhere safe." "Safe is a lie, Nate. There's no safe. There's just choices." Clara took his arm. "And I'm choosing to stand." They walked to church together. The whole town was there. Sunday service. Everyone dressed in their best, pretending to be decent, godly people. Clara saw Mrs. Henderson, the mayor, the Blackwell sisters. Saw faces that had watched her beaten and done nothing. Saw Silas Maddox in the front pew. He turned when she entered. Their eyes met. His face went hard. Clara walked down the aisle, Nate beside her. Found a seat in the middle. Not hiding in back. Not apologizing for existing. Pastor Williams stumbled over his sermon. Kept looking at Clara, at Silas, at the tension crackling through the church like lightning before a storm. He preached about forgiveness, about mercy, about turning the other cheek. Clara listened and thought about how easy it was to preach forgiveness when you weren't the one who'd been hurt. How simple to talk about mercy when you had the power to be merciful. The service ended. People filed out, whispering, staring. Clara stood slowly, her ribs aching from sitting. Silas blocked the aisle. "You're still here. I'm still here. I warned you what would happen. You did. I didn't listen." His hand shot out, grabbed her arm, tight enough to bruise. "You think having your pet gunman makes you safe. You think because a few people clapped at a dance you're protected. I think I'm done being afraid of you." Nate moved, fast as thought. His hand clamped on Silas's wrist, twisted sharply. Silas gasped, released Clara. "Don't touch her." "This is a church," Silas said through gritted teeth. "You'd assault me in a church." "You assaulted her in a churchyard. Seems fair." People were gathering now, watching, waiting to see what would happen. Marshal Torres pushed through the crowd. "That's enough, both of you." "He grabbed her," Nate said. "I saw. Mr. Maddox, I'm going to need you to come with me." Silas laughed. "For what?" "Touching someone's arm." "For assault. In front of 24 witnesses." Torres gestured to the crowd, all of whom saw you grab Miss Dawson, some of whom probably heard you threaten her earlier. "You can't arrest me for—" "I can. And I am. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to a lawyer. You—" "This is ridiculous." Silas jerked away from Torres. "She's nobody. A whore who plays piano. You're arresting me for touching her. I'm arresting you for assault. What happens next depends on what else we find." Torres pulled out handcuffs. "Now you can come quietly, or we can do this the hard way. Your choice." For a moment, Clara thought Silas would fight. Saw his hand twitch toward his gun. Saw murder in his eyes. Then Grace stepped forward. "He killed Sarah Mitchell," she said clearly, loudly, so everyone could hear. "My mother witnessed it. Told me before she died. He pushed her down those stairs because she wouldn't sell him her land." Gasps. Whispers. Silas went pale. "Grace, you don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying, Father, and I'm done protecting you, done lying for you, done pretending you're anything other than what you are." Grace's voice shook but didn't break. "A killer, a bully, a man who hurts anyone who won't bow to him." "You ungrateful little—" He lunged for Grace. Nate caught him, slammed him against the wall. The sound echoed through the church. "You're done," Nate said quietly. "Done hurting people. Done threatening. Done." Torres cuffed Silas while he struggled. 2 deputies materialized from the crowd, helped wrestle him toward the door. "This isn't over," Silas shouted. "I'll be out by nightfall. I have lawyers. I have money. I have—" "You have nothing," Clara said quietly. But somehow her voice carried. You have fear and intimidation, and people too scared to stand up to you. But fear runs out. Eventually, everyone gets tired of being afraid. She looked at the crowd, at the faces watching, some ashamed, some defiant, all silent. I was beaten in this town's churchyard, left to die in the snow. And you watched. All of you watched. Her voice cracked. But some of you stopped watching. Some of you helped. Doc Emma, Mrs. Chen, Pete, the people who clapped at the dance. Grace, who risked everything to do what was right. She took a breath. Silas Maddox is powerful because you let him be, because you chose fear over courage, safety over justice. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can choose differently. Today. Right now. Silence. Long. Heavy. Then Mrs. Chen stepped forward. He threatened my son 2 years ago. Said if I didn't pay protection money, my boy would have an accident. Pete cleared his throat. He burned down the old hotel, the one that used to compete with his place. Everyone said it was lightning, but it wasn't. I saw his man leaving right before the fire started. One by one, people spoke up. Small crimes, old grievances, things they'd been too afraid to mention before. Not enough individually, but together, they painted a picture of a man who'd terrorized a town for years. Torres listened to all of it, his face unreadable. When the last person finished, he nodded. That's a lot of accusations, Mr. Maddox. Lot of people willing to testify. Might be you'll be our guest for longer than you thought. They dragged Silas out. His shouts echoed down the street, fading into the cold morning air. Grace collapsed. Clara caught her, held her up despite the screaming protest from her ribs. You did it, Clara whispered. You stood up to him. I betrayed my father. You told the truth. There's a difference. Grace pulled back, her face wet with tears. What happens now? Now. Clara looked at Nate, at Torres, at the crowd slowly dispersing. Now we see if truth is enough. The trial took 3 weeks to organize. Silas had lawyers, good ones. They argued evidence was circumstantial. Witnesses were unreliable. Sarah Mitchell's death was an accident, and anything else was speculation from a bitter daughter. But the prosecution had Doc Emma's testimony, had the statements from townspeople, had Clara's injuries documented in clinical detail, had the church incident with 24 witnesses. Most importantly, they had Grace. Calm, clear, unshakable. Telling the truth even when her father's lawyers tried to break her, when they called her ungrateful, disloyal, hysterical. She sat in the witness stand and said, My mother died knowing my father was a killer. I won't die knowing I protected him. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty of assault. Guilty of intimidation. Guilty of destruction of property. Not enough to prove murder, Sarah Mitchell's death remained officially an accident, but enough to send Silas Maddox to prison for 5 years. When the verdict was read, Clara felt Nate's hand find hers. Squeeze tight. It's over, he said. Is it the worst part? Yeah, I think it is. That night, Clara played piano at the saloon. Not borrowed time in a boarding house room, but actually working. Actually living. The music flowed from her fingers, not sad anymore, not mourning, but something new. Something that sounded almost like hope. Nate sat at the bar watching. Grace sat beside him nursing a sarsaparilla, looking lost but free. When Clara finished playing, she stood slowly, carefully. Her ribs still ached, but healed more every day. She crossed to where they sat. So, she said, what happens now? Now. Nate's smile was small but real. Now we figure out what living looks like. What comes after surviving. Any ideas? A few. He glanced at Grace. Town needs a new sheriff. Torres says his deputy quit. Moved to California. Positions open. You're going to be sheriff? Torres asked. Said the town needs someone who'll actually enforce the law. Someone who stops when people need help. Nate shrugged. Figured it's better than drifting. What about you? Clara asked Grace. Your father's ranch is being sold. Everything he owned. I don't want it. Grace's voice was firm. I'm thinking about opening a dress shop, real one, where women can come and feel safe and beautiful and not be judged. With what money? Torres says there's a reward for information leading to Silas's arrest. Turns out several families had posted bounties for various crimes over the years. Grace's smile was tentative. It's not much, but it's enough to start. Clara looked at them, these two people who'd stood with her when everyone else walked away. Who'd risked everything for a stranger. Who'd shown her that courage wasn't about never being afraid, it was about standing up anyway. What about you, Clara? Nate asked quietly. What do you want? She thought about Philadelphia, about Edmund and debts and losing everything, about arriving in Redemption Creek desperate and alone, about snow stained with her blood and Nate's voice saying she'd stand with him, about the dance, the trial, the slow, painful process of becoming someone who wouldn't be beaten down. I want to stay, she said. Here, in Redemption Creek. I want to teach music to children, want to play piano without fear, want to wake up tomorrow and not wonder if it's my last day. That sounds like a good plan. Does it? Yeah. Nate stood, offered his hand. It sounds like living. Clara took his hand. Let him pull her close. Not romantic, not yet, but something deeper. Two people who'd been broken, finding ways to heal together. Outside, snow started falling again, soft, gentle, covering the town in white. But this time, Clara didn't see it as something hiding darkness. She saw it as something new, clean, a second chance. She'd been beaten in the snow, left to die while people watched. But she'd stood up, fought back, survived. And now finally she could start to live. The first threat arrived 2 days after Silas was sentenced. Clara found it nailed to the saloon door, a crude drawing of a woman hanging from a noose, her face marked with X's where the eyes should be. No words. Didn't need them. She stood there in the February cold, staring at the paper, feeling ice settle in her stomach. Clara. Old Pete came up behind her, saw the drawing. His face went gray. Sweet Jesus. He's in prison. His men aren't. Nate arrived within minutes, summoned by Pete. He took one look at the drawing and his whole body went rigid. How many ranch hands did Silas have? Dozen, maybe more, Pete said. Mean bastards every one, loyal to him even now. Where are they? Still at the ranch. Grace fired them after the trial, but they haven't left, squatting on the property saying they got nowhere else to go. Nate pulled the drawing down, crumpled it. I'll talk to Torres. And say what? Clara's voice was steadier than she felt. That someone drew a picture, that's not a crime. It's a threat. It's paper. She took the crumpled drawing from him, smoothed it out, studied it. But it tells us something. What? They're scared. If they were confident, they'd have done more than leave a drawing. They'd have acted. Clara folded the paper carefully. This is meant to frighten me into leaving, which means they're not sure they can actually hurt me. Or they're waiting for the right moment, Nate said grimly. He wasn't wrong. Clara knew he wasn't wrong, but she also knew running now would mean running forever. So we don't give them the right moment. We stay alert. We stay together. We stay alive. Grace arrived then, breathless from running. I heard about the threat. Clara, you need to leave town. Go somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe. There has to be, Grace. Clara took the younger woman's shoulders. Your father is in prison because we stood up to him, because we refused to run. If I leave now, everything we did means nothing. If you die, everything we did definitely means nothing. Clara couldn't argue with that logic, but she also couldn't make herself care. Something had shifted in her during the trial. Some fundamental understanding about fear and courage and what it meant to actually live. "I'm not leaving," she said quietly. "But you should. Take your reward money. Go to Denver or Santa Fe. Start your dress shop somewhere those men can't find you. And leave you alone." "She's not alone," Nate said. His hand rested on his gun. "I'm here. 1 man against 12. Won't be the first time." Grace looked between them, frustration and fear warring on her face. "You're both insane." "Probably," Clara agreed. "But we're committed insane." The second threat came that night. Clara woke to the smell of smoke. Not the pleasant wood smoke of a stove, but acrid wrong. Chemical. She stumbled from bed ribs protesting and threw open her door. Nate was already there, gun drawn, face hard. Fire. Back of the building. Someone doused it with lamp oil. The boarding house. "Mrs. Chen's getting people out. We need to go. Now." Clara grabbed her coat, the derringer nothing else. They ran down the stairs into chaos. Guests in nightclothes, smoke billowing, Mrs. Chen shouting orders in Chinese and English. Outside, half the town had gathered. The fire brigade worked furiously, but the back wall was already engulfed. Marshal Torres appeared at Clara's side. "Everyone out." "I think so." Mrs. Chen did a head count. "This wasn't an accident." "No." Torres's jaw tightened. "I'm putting a guard on you, round the clock. Those ranch hands want to play games, they'll have to go through the law first. You don't have enough men for that. Then I'll deputize more." Torres looked at Nate. "Starting with you." Nate's eyebrows rose. "Me? You're already protecting her anyway. Might as well make it official. Pays lousy hours or worse, but you get a badge." "I'm not law material." "You stopped in a churchyard when everyone else walked past. You stood between her and Silas when it would have been easier to leave. That's exactly what law material looks like." Torres held out a badge. "What do you say?" Nate looked at Clara. She saw the question in his eyes. This would tie him here. To this town. To her. No more drifting. No more running from his past. "Take it," she said quietly. "Clara, take it. You've been trying to save those 32 men for 10 years. Maybe it's time you saved yourself instead." Something shifted in his face. Pain and hope mixed together. He took the badge. "All right, I'm in." "Good." Torres turned to the crowd. "Anyone else want to help? We've got a dozen armed men making threats against a woman who did nothing but tell the truth. I need deputies. I need witnesses. I need people willing to stand up." Silence. Clara felt her heart sink. Still the same town. Still the same cowards. Then Preacher Pete stepped forward. "I'll do it." "You're 70 years old, Pete." "I can still shoot, and I'm tired of being afraid." Pete's voice carried across the crowd. Miss Clara stood up to Silas when no one else would. "Least I can do is stand with her now." Doc Emma pushed through. "I'm too old to deputize, but I'll treat anyone who gets hurt. Free of charge." Mrs. Chen raised her hand. "My son will help. He's strong good with horses." One by one, people volunteered. Not everyone, not even most, but enough. The blacksmith. 2 ranch hands from a neighboring property. The youngest Blackwell sister. Even Pastor Williams looking ashamed but determined. Torres took names, handed out badges to those who could fight, assigned roles to those who couldn't. By dawn, Clara had a protection detail of 8 deputies and a dozen volunteers watching the streets. By noon, she had something else, a letter from Silas Maddox. It came via his lawyer, delivered to Torres's office. Clara read it standing between Nate and Grace, her hands shaking. "You think you've won. You think putting me in prison ends this. But I built this town. I own this town. And what I build, I can destroy. Tell my men to stand down, or everyone you care about will burn. You have until Sunday. Choose wisely." He's bluffing, Grace said, but her voice wavered. Is he? Clara looked at Torres. Can you protect everyone? The whole town? No, I can protect you, maybe Grace. But if his men decide to start fires, hurt people cause chaos, I don't have enough deputies to stop all of it. So we're trapped. If I stay, people get hurt. If I leave, Silas wins. There's a third option, Nate said quietly. Everyone looked at him. We go to the ranch, take the fight to them instead of waiting for them to come to us. That's suicide, Grace said flatly. Maybe, but it's also the only way to end this. Nate looked at Torres. You deputize a posse. We ride out there, arrest every one of those ranch hands for arson and threatening behavior. Take them into custody before they can hurt anyone else. On what charges? We can't prove they set the fire. Then we catch them trying to set another one. We watch the ranch, wait for them to make a move, and we're ready when they do. Torres was quiet for a long moment. That's dangerous. Could go wrong in 100 ways. So could waiting here for them to burn down the town. Clara felt something cold settle in her chest. This is my fault. Silas is threatening everyone because of me. I should... Don't. Nate's voice was sharp. Don't you dare say you should leave. This isn't your fault. This is Silas Maddox being a bully even from prison. And the only way to stop a bully is to stand up to him. By riding into a trap. By being ready for the trap. By having more guns, better strategy, and the law on our side. Nate looked at Torres. What do you say marshal you in? Torres studied Nate's face, then Clara's, then Grace's. Finally, he nodded. All right. We do this legal and careful. Full posse. No cowboy heroics. We arrest them, we bring them in, we do it by the book. He looked at Clara. But I need you to understand something. This could get people killed. Good people. People volunteering to help you. Are you prepared for that? Clara thought about Edmund dying. About Philadelphia. About being beaten in the snow while people watched. About the drawing on the saloon door and the fire at the boarding house. I'm prepared to stop running, she said quietly. Whatever that takes. They assembled the posse 2 days later. 12 men, all deputized, all armed. Nate led them because he'd been a cavalry scout, knew tactics and terrain. Torres commanded because he was the law. Clara insisted on coming. Absolutely not, Nate said. It's not your decision. It's a terrible idea. It's my life they're threatening. I'm coming. They argued for an hour. Clara won by simple stubbornness. She'd go with the posse or she'd follow on her own. Nate could choose which was safer. Grace came too. They're squatting on my property. I have a right to be there when you arrest them. So the posse of 12 became 14. 2 women, 12 men riding out into February cold to confront a dozen armed ranch hands who had nothing to lose. The ranch looked abandoned as they approached. No smoke from the chimneys, no movement in the yard, just empty buildings and snow-covered ground. I don't like this, Torres muttered. Too quiet. Spread out, Nate ordered. Watch for ambush. If shooting starts, get to cover fast. They moved forward slowly. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs, the healed ones and the ones that still ached. The derringer was heavy in her pocket. The main house door stood open. Torres dismounted, moved to the entrance, gun drawn, looked inside. His face went pale. What is it? Nate called. They're gone. All of them. Place is cleared out. Clara slid from her horse despite Nate's protest, walked to the house, looked inside. Empty. Completely empty. Furniture gone, pictures removed from walls, even the curtains stripped. Like no one had ever lived there. They ran, Grace whispered. They actually ran. Or they want us to think they did. Torres moved through the house carefully. Check the other buildings. Make sure this isn't a trap. The men scattered, searching barn, bunkhouse, outbuildings. Clara stood in the empty house, feeling something twist in her chest. "This is wrong," she said. "What do you mean?" Nate was beside her, alert, ready. "Silas's men are loyal. They wouldn't just abandon him, wouldn't run without a fight." Clara turned slowly. "Unless—" The explosion came from town. Not here, not at the ranch. Back in Redemption Creek. A boom that echoed across the distance, followed by the faint sound of screaming. "No!" Torres breathed. No, they couldn't. "It was a diversion," Nate said, his voice dead. "Get us out of town, then hit where we're not." They rode back faster than was safe. Horses at full gallop, snow spraying, Clara clinging to her saddle and praying her ribs wouldn't give. The smoke was visible before they reached town. Black, thick, rising from Main Street. The saloon. They'd blown up the saloon. Clara dismounted before her horse fully stopped running toward the flames. Nate caught her. "You can't." Pete was there. Pete and Mrs. Chen's son. And, "I'll look. You stay here." But she couldn't stay. Couldn't stand back while the place she'd worked, the place that had given her purpose, burned. She pushed past Nate into the chaos. People were already forming bucket lines. The fire brigade worked desperately. Doc Emma tended wounded on the street, burns cuts from flying debris, smoke inhalation. "Pete!" Clara shouted. "Pete, where are you?" "Here!" The old man emerged from the smoke, his face black with soot, his arm bleeding. "I'm here. Got out just in time." "What happened?" "Explosion. Someone threw dynamite through the front window. I was in the back, heard the hiss of the fuse, ran." Pete coughed violently. 5 seconds later, boom! "Anyone else inside?" "No. Thank God. Just me. But Clara—" His voice broke. "Your piano. I'm sorry. Your piano's gone." Clara looked at the burning building. Saw flames consuming wood and memory, and the one thing that had kept her sane through everything. The piano Edmund had bought her in Philadelphia. The one she'd had shipped west at great expense. The one that had survived the journey, the poverty, everything. Gone. She sank to her knees in the snow. Not crying. Couldn't cry. Just staring at the flames and feeling something break inside her. Nate's arms came around her. Gentle. Strong. "I'm sorry." "It's just a piano." "No, it's not." He was right. It wasn't just a piano. It was the last piece of her old life. The last connection to Edmund, to Philadelphia, to the woman she'd been before everything fell apart. And Silas Maddox's men had destroyed it. Clara stood slowly. Nate helped her up, his hands careful. "Where's Torres?" "Checking for more explosives. Making sure this is the only another explosion. This one smaller further away. The general store. Then another. The hotel. 3 buildings. Time to go off in sequence. Maximum chaos, maximum damage." Torres appeared through the smoke, his face grim. "They're systematically destroying the town. 5 more buildings have explosives set. We found them before they went off, but where are Silas's men now?" Clara's voice was flat, cold. "We don't know. They scattered after setting the charges. Find them." "Clara. Find them. All of them. I want them arrested. I want them in prison with Silas. I want—" Her voice broke. "I want this to end." Nate exchanged looks with Torres. The marshal nodded. "All right, we hunt them, every last one." Torres raised his voice. "Anyone who can ride with me, we're forming search parties." Men scrambled to obey. Some excited, some terrified, all determined. Grace appeared at Clara's side. "My father did this. Even from prison, he—" "Your father is a coward who sends other men to do his violence." Clara took Grace's hand. "This isn't your fault." "Isn't it? If I hadn't testified, then he'd still be free, still hurting people. At least now he's locked up. At least now we're fighting back." Doc Emma called out, "I need help. Man trapped under debris." Clara and Grace ran to help. spent the next hours digging people out, treating burns, holding hands of the wounded, while Doc Emma worked. By nightfall, they'd found 6 of Silas's men. 4 arrested, 2 dead, killed in an explosion they'd set too close to themselves. The others had fled into the mountains. The town looked like a war zone. 3 buildings destroyed, 2 more damaged beyond repair. 5 people seriously injured. 1 dead, the hotel owner who'd gone back inside to save his cash box and been caught in the explosion. Clara stood in the ruins of the saloon, looking at the charred remains of her piano. The keys were melted, the wood blackened, nothing salvageable. "I'll buy you a new one," a voice said behind her. She turned. Nate stood there, his face streaked with soot and blood from a cut on his forehead. "You can't afford a piano." "I'll find a way." "Nate, you need music. Need something beautiful in all this ugliness. I'll get you a piano if I have to build it myself." Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. "You know how to build a piano?" "No, but I'm a fast learner." They stood together in the ruins, and Clara felt something shift. Not hope exactly, but determination. Absolute iron-hard determination. "We're going to find the rest of them," she said quietly. "Every man who did this. And we're going to make sure they face justice." "Yes. And then I'm going to rebuild. Going to play music again. Going to show Silas Maddox that he can blow up buildings, but he can't blow up the will to keep living." "Yes. And you're going to help me." "Yes." She looked at him. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the determination in his jaw, the absolute unwavering commitment. "Why? Why do all this, risk everything for someone you barely know?" "I know you." His voice was quiet but certain. "Know you're brave even when you're terrified. Know you stand up when everyone else stays down. Know you fight for what's right, even when it costs you everything." He touched her face gently. "That's all I need to know." Clara's throat closed. She leaned into his touch, let herself feel safe for just a moment. Then Torres called out. Found tracks heading north into the mountains. The moment broke. Clara stepped back. "Go. Track them. End this." "Come with us." "No, I need to stay. Help Doc Emma. Help rebuild." She managed to smile. "Besides, someone needs to watch the town while you're gone." Clara. "Go, Nate. Do what you do. Stop the bad things. Save people." She touched his badge. "Be the law this town needs." He caught her hand, held it. "When I come back." "When you come back, we'll figure out what comes next. Together." He kissed her then. Quick, fierce, desperate. Then he was gone, running toward his horse, toward the mountains, toward whatever waited in the snow. Clara watched him go, and felt fear and hope war in her chest. Grace came to stand beside her. "He'll come back." "Will he?" "He's too stubborn not to." "Stubbornness doesn't stop bullets." "No, but it helps." Grace took Clara's hand. "Come on. Doc Emma needs help setting a broken leg, and Mrs. Chen's organizing food for everyone who lost their homes. We've got work to do." They turned away from the ruins toward the living, toward the work of surviving. Behind them, the saloon smoldered. The piano was gone, but Clara was still standing, still breathing, still fighting, and that she thought was going to have to be enough. 3 days passed, with no word from the posse. Clara worked alongside Doc Emma and Grace, treating the wounded, feeding the displaced, helping rebuild what the explosions had destroyed. Her hands stayed busy, but her mind kept drifting north toward the mountains, toward Nate and the men hunting Silas's ranch hands through the snow. On the 4th day, a rider appeared on the horizon. Not the posse, just one man riding hard, his horse lathered despite the cold. Torres. Clara's heart stopped. She ran toward him, Grace at her heels. "What happened? Where's Nate? Where are the others?" Torres dismounted slowly. His left arm was in a sling. Blood stained his coat. "We found them," All of them. Holed up in an old mine shaft about 20 miles north. And they didn't come quietly. Torres's voice was rough. We tried to arrest them. Gave them every chance to surrender. They chose to fight instead. Clara felt ice in her stomach. How many did we lose? 2 deputies, blacksmith and one of the Chen boys' friends. Good men, brave men. Torres met her eyes. But we got them all. Every last one of Silas's men is either dead or in custody. It's over. Nate took a bullet in the shoulder. Nothing fatal, but Doc Emma should look at it. He's coming in with the rest of the posse. Should be here within the hour. Relief hit Clara so hard her knees buckled. Grace caught her. He's alive. He's alive. Stubborn bastard wouldn't even let me check his wound. Said he'd wait for Doc Emma because she had gentler hands. Torres almost smiled. Complained the whole ride back about you being right to stay. Said if you'd been there you'd have gotten hurt and then he'd have had to shoot someone and the paperwork would have been impossible. Despite everything, Clara laughed. Harsh, broken, but real. That sounds like him. She saw them coming an hour later. 10 riders instead of 12. 2 horses without riders, just bodies wrapped in canvas and tied across saddles. Nate rode at the back, his face gray with pain and exhaustion, his left shoulder wrapped in bloody bandages that hadn't been changed in days. Clara ran to him. He dismounted with a grunt of pain, nearly fell, caught himself against his horse. You're an idiot, Clara said. Probably. You got shot. Little bit. You should have let Torres check your wound. Should have. Clara. His good hand cupped her face. I'm fine. We won. It's over. She wanted to argue, wanted to yell at him for being reckless, for risking his life, for making her care so much it hurt. Instead, she kissed him. Right there in the street with half the town watching. Kissed him like he'd been gone for years instead of days. Kissed him like she'd thought she'd never get the chance again. When they pulled apart, his eyes were bright. What was that for? For coming back. For being too stubborn to die. For, her voice broke. For keeping your promise. What promise? That I'd stand with you. Can't very well do that if you're dead. He laughed, winced, pressed a hand to his shoulder. Good point. Now, can we please find Doc Emma before I pass out, because I think I'm about to pass out. He did pass out. Right there in Clara's arms. She and Grace managed to get him to Doc Emma's office, where the doctor worked for 2 hours, extracting the bullet and stitching up the damage. He'll live, Doc Emma said when she finished. But he needs rest. Real rest. Not this nonsense where he sleeps 3 hours and then goes back to work. I'll make sure he rests, Clara promised. You better. Man's too useful to lose to infection because he's too stubborn to lie still. Nate woke at sunset. Clara sat beside his bed holding his good hand. Hey, he said, his voice rough. Hey, yourself. Did we win? You won? All of Silas's men are in custody or dead. Torres is pressing charges against everyone involved. With the explosions, the deaths, the threats, they're looking at long prison sentences. Some of them might hang. Good. He closed his eyes. That's good. Nate. Yeah. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever make me wait, not knowing if you're alive or dead. He opened his eyes, looked at her. Really looked. Can't promise that. Not if you're going to keep getting into trouble. I'm not. You stood up to Silas Maddox. Testified against him in court. Refused to run even when threatened. You're absolutely going to keep getting into trouble. His thumb traced circles on her palm. So I can't promise I won't risk my life protecting you. But I can promise I'll always try to come back. That's not good enough. It's all I've got. Clara stared at their joined hands, at this man who'd stopped in the snow for a stranger, who'd stood with her against a town's indifference and a powerful man's rage, who'd just spent 4 days hunting killers through frozen mountains because someone needed to stop them. It'll have to be enough, she said quietly, because I'm not letting you go. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. They sat in comfortable silence until Nate's eyes drifted closed again. Clara stayed watching him breathe, feeling the steady beat of his pulse beneath her fingers. Grace found her there an hour later. "You should rest too. You've been awake for 4 days straight." "I'm fine." "You're exhausted. And lying." Grace sat in the other chair. "Clara, it's over. The fighting's done. You can stop now." "Can I?" "Silas is still alive, still in prison planning revenge. His men might be caught, but nothing. He has no power anymore. No men. No money. It's all being seized to pay for damages. No influence. He's just a man in a cell." Grace took Clara's free hand. "You won. Actually won. Do you understand that?" Clara thought about Edmund dying, about Philadelphia, about arriving in Redemption Creek with nothing, about being beaten in the snow, about the long, painful climb from victim to survivor to something more. "I'm not sure I know how to stop fighting." "Then learn. Start with rest, then breakfast. Then maybe think about what comes next now that you're not just trying to survive." "What does come next?" Grace smiled. "Whatever you want. That's the point of winning. You get to choose." The funeral for the 2 fallen deputies was held 3 days later. The whole town turned out. Clara played hymns on a borrowed piano, old out of tune, but still music. When it was over, when the bodies were buried and the last prayers said, Mayor Pritchard stood up. "I want to say something. About Miss Clara Dawson." Clara froze. The mayor had been one of the people in the churchyard, one of the ones who'd watched her beaten and done nothing. "When Miss Dawson first came to our town, we didn't treat her well. We judged her, condemned her, and when Silas Maddox attacked her, most of us looked away." His voice shook. "I looked away. I'm ashamed of that. Will be ashamed of it for the rest of my life." He turned to face Clara directly. But Miss Dawson didn't look away. She stood up. She fought back. She showed us what courage actually looks like. And because of her, Silas Maddox is in prison. His men are in custody. And our town has a chance to be better. He pulled something from his pocket. A deed. The saloon was destroyed, but the land it stood on is valuable. The previous owner died with no heirs, so it reverts to the town. We're giving it to you, Miss Dawson, to rebuild, to do with as you see fit. It's not enough. It'll never be enough to make up for what we did. But it's a start." Clara stared at the deed, at the mayor's trembling hands, at the faces watching, some ashamed, some hopeful, all waiting. She took the deed. "Thank you," she managed. "No, ma'am, thank you, for not giving up on us even when we gave up on you." That night, Clara stood in the ruins of the saloon with Nate at her side, his arm still in a sling, but his color better. "What are you going to build?" he asked. "I don't know. A new saloon maybe. Or something different. A music school. A place where women can learn piano, where children can learn to read music." She looked at the empty space. "Something that matters." "It'll all matter, whatever you choose." "Will it?" "Yes." He turned her to face him. "Clara, you survived things that would have broken most people. Lost your husband, your home, everything you had. Got beaten nearly to death. Had your piano destroyed. And you're still standing here planning the future. If that's not mattering, I don't know what is." "I had help. Had you. Had grace. Had people who finally chose to stand up. Because you showed them how. Because you wouldn't quit." His good hand found hers. "You matter, Clara, to this town, to Grace, to me. You matter so much it scares me." Her breath caught. "Nate, I love you. Have since that day in the snow probably. Since you looked at me with those green eyes and decided to trust a stranger. Since you stood up to Silas in that church. Since you played piano with broken ribs just to prove you were still alive." His voice was rough. "I love you. And I know it's fast. And I know we've got baggage and complications, but I don't care. I love you." Clara felt tears on her face. I love you too. God help me, I love you too. Then marry me. She stared at him. What? Marry me. Build a life with me. Not because you need protection, or because you're scared, or because it's practical. Marry me because you want to. Because we're better together than apart. Nate, we barely know each other. I know you're brave. I know you're stubborn. I know you fight for what's right even when it costs you everything. I know you cry during hymns, and you hum when you're nervous, and you take your coffee black because cream is expensive. He smiled. I know you, Clara. The important parts. The parts that matter. What about the parts you don't know? We'll learn them together. That's what marriage is. Learning each other every day for the rest of your lives. Clara looked at this man who'd saved her, who'd stood with her, who'd loved her even when she couldn't love herself. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll build a life with you. Yes to all of it. She kissed him. You ridiculous, stubborn, wonderful man. Yes. They were married 2 weeks later in the church where Clara had been beaten. Pastor Williams performed the ceremony, his hands shaking but his voice strong. Grace stood as Clara's witness. Torres stood as Nate's. Half the town attended. Not everyone. Some people were still too ashamed. Some still thought Clara had gotten what she deserved. But enough came. Enough to fill the pews. Enough to show that something had changed in Redemption Creek. Clara wore a dress Grace had made cream-colored wool with blue trim. Simple, but beautiful. Nate wore his deputy badge and the cleanest shirt he owned. When Pastor Williams asked if anyone objected, the church was silent. When he pronounced them husband and wife, Nate kissed Clara like she was the most precious thing in the world. And when they walked down the aisle together, Clara saw faces that had watched her beaten now smiling. Not all of them, but some. Enough. At the reception held in the newly rebuilt town hall, Grace made a toast. To Clara and Nate, two people who taught us that courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about standing up anyway. About fighting for what's right even when the whole world says to quit. About... Her voice broke. About being better than you have to be. Thank you both. For everything. They danced. Clara's ribs still ached sometimes, especially in cold weather, but she danced anyway. Nate's shoulder wasn't fully healed, but he held her close and swayed to the music and didn't complain once. Later, when the party was winding down, a stranger arrived. Well-dressed, carrying an expensive case. Mrs. Holloway, I'm Samuel Chen from Denver, Mrs. Chen's nephew. She wrote to me about what happened. About your piano. He opened the case. Inside, wrapped in velvet, was a deed to a music shop in Denver, and a letter. Clara read it with shaking hands. Mrs. Chen had bought her a piano. Not just any piano, a Steinway Grand, shipped from New York, the finest instrument money could buy. It'll arrive next month, Samuel said. My aunt wanted you to have the best, said you'd earned it. Clara couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Just stood there, holding the letter and trying not to sob. Nate's arms came around her. You okay? She turned in his embrace. I'm more than okay. I'm loved, he finished. You're loved. By me, by Grace, by this town, by everyone who knows your story. You're loved, Clara. Finally. She was loved. For the first time since Edmund died, maybe for the first time in her whole life, Clara felt truly, completely loved. 6 months passed. The music school opened in the rebuilt saloon. Clara taught piano to anyone who wanted to learn children adults, anyone with desire and discipline. The Steinway stood in the corner, polished and perfect, and every night Clara played for an hour just to hear its voice. Grace's dress shop flourished. Women came from 3 counties to buy her designs. She hired 2 seamstresses and was training a 3rd. Nate became sheriff when Torres retired to Denver with his wife. He was good at it, fair, firm. The kind of lawman who stopped when people needed help. Silas Maddox died in prison that winter. Pneumonia, the official report said. Clara felt nothing when she heard. Not satisfaction, not grief, just a kind of empty relief that he couldn't hurt anyone anymore. Spring came. The snow melted. Redemption Creek turned green and alive. Clara stood on the porch of the house she and Nate had built, small but solid, with a music room and a garden and space to grow, and watched the sun rise over the mountains. She heard Nate's footsteps behind her, felt his arms circle her waist, his chin rest on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" "How far we've come. How different everything is." Good different or bad different? Good. So good it scares me sometimes. Why does it scare you? Clara leaned back against him. Because I keep waiting for it to end, for something to go wrong, for life to hurt you again. Nate finished quietly. I know that feeling. Does it ever go away? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe that's what healing is, not forgetting the hurt but learning to trust the good anyway. Clara turned in his arms, looked up at his face, scarred, weathered, beautiful. I trust you. Trust us. Trust this. Then that's enough. That's more than enough. She kissed him as the sun climbed higher, painting the world in gold. Later that day, Clara taught her afternoon piano class. 5 students, ranging from 8 years old to 60. She watched their hands on the keys, watched them struggle and improve, and find joy in music, and felt something settle in her chest. Purpose. She'd found purpose. That night, she and Nate walked through town hand in hand. People greeted them. Sheriff Mrs. Holloway, good evening, friendly, respectful, not afraid. They stopped in front of the church, the place where Clara had been beaten, where she'd almost died in the snow. Do you ever regret it? Nate asked quietly. Coming here, staying, everything that happened. Clara looked at the churchyard, remembered the pain, the fear, the certainty she was going to die alone and forgotten. Then she remembered Nate's voice in the snow, Doc Emma's gentle hands, Grace's courage, the slow, painful process of healing and fighting and becoming someone new. No, she said, I don't regret it, because all of it, all the pain and fear and struggle led me here, to you, to this life, to becoming who I am now. And who are you now? Clara thought about it, about the girl from Philadelphia who'd been too scared to leave her husband's deathbed, about the widow who'd arrived in Redemption Creek desperate and broken, about the woman who'd been beaten in the snow and refused to stay down. I'm someone who stands, she said finally, someone who fights for what's right, someone who doesn't run anymore. She looked up at Nate. I'm yours, and I'm mine. And that's enough. He kissed her temple. That's more than enough. That's everything. They walked home through the spring evening, and Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the absence of struggle. Not the promise that nothing would ever hurt her again, but the deep, bone-certain knowledge that she could handle whatever came, that she was strong enough, brave enough, loved enough. She'd been beaten in the snow of Redemption Creek, left to die while people watched. But she'd stood up, fought back, survived. And now, walking hand in hand with the man who'd stopped when everyone else walked past, Clara Holloway knew something she'd never quite believed before. She'd fallen once, but she would never fall again. Not as long as she had breath in her body, love in her heart, and the courage to stand when the world said to kneel. The snow runs red in memory, but spring always comes, and with it, the chance to bloom.